Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are learning Rabbeinu Yonah, Sefer on Mishlei, and we left off last night talking about Bitachon and really describing that the first level of Bitachon, of course, the Torah promises. Baruch Hu makes a promise. Hashem's promise is not 99%, not 99.99%, it's 100%. Every word, every haftacha, every promise of the Torah is 100% guaranteed return on investment. The Torah says that you will not lose for doing a mitzvah, you will not lose by keeping Shabbos, you will not lose by doing Shabbos. If the Torah says you will get blessed for doing this kind of mitzvah, then you will be blessed for doing this mitzvah. That is the at some level it could be one person can be challenged at times, to think they're not going to lose out by doing what's right. But it's an easy thing to be touched, but because the Torah says this is the case. And we left off last night discussing, well, that's very nice, the things we have promises on. There are other areas in life there is no promise. There is nothing. One of the things we discussed is that an essential reality of Bitachon, and one of the reasons why that which we're going to see later on, why at the end of the day, even if a person has sins, and even we for sure have sins. Where Yaakov Avinu, wherever Yaakov Avinu's sins or Shmuel's sins were, they were so great. We can't even imagine how great, spiritually great they were. You say, okay, whatever their sins were, they were nervous about it. The Torah tells us that the chesed of Hashem is so overwhelming. I think I compared it last night to a human father, a human parent. When we see our children, all we want to do is give them. Now, sometimes we have to discipline them. So if I honestly, I was telling my wife, like, having the kids locked in this house for many weeks already, it's crazy. It's like a real test for kids. I can't imagine growing up this way. It's a test for the parents because we have to be in the house with these kids, and the children, every age is a different test. For little kids, you have one test. For teenagers, a different test. You have to discipline children. That's part of the job criteria of a parent. But the discipline's also out of love. You only want to give love. So certainly, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is much more loving than the best parent to ever live in this world, and not only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows better than anyone how to help us. So we have the Kehillas, that hope, the kivor that comes from the Bitachon, is that we will even see in this world, even the here and now, Hashem's bracha in our life. And that's really how we pick up the next thing, because part of it is, and this is an amazing thing, when it's Sphira time, and so when I'm doing my emails, or I'm doing, since I'm a teenager, actually, some habits, when I would study in high school, even in elementary, that's how far this habit of mine goes back. I would pace, and I would listen to music, for sure I'd pace, and I would listen to music. And so if I'm learning Gemara, I'm not going to do that, but if I'm thinking or answering emails, or I'm running my drashas, 100%. I'm playing music or I'm listening to my drashas. It just gets me into this mind frame. So I don't, obviously, like you, don't listen to music. I don't personally, I'm not makel on a cappella for myself. So when I'm doing emails, I want background. So I'll listen to speeches. And I get probably 30-40% of these speeches through osmosis in my head. And there's two types of speeches I like. One type of speech that I appreciate is the more cerebral TED Talk. I love graduation speeches at major universities, and the other type of more motivational speeches. And one of the things I like are these, it's you can do it type speeches. And I've always felt myself personally empowered by the belief that one could push themselves to accomplish way more than they ever could imagine. And I think, it's actually, I've been sharing, the wackiest thing. I told my wife, it was so crazy. I got invited today to present to, I don't know how many ladies it is, but it's a writers group in Jerusalem of Jewish religious ladies. Now, and it's a good thing is they have a yearly conference, and this year will be via Zoom. It's going to be in early June. And now the crazy thing is not that they asked me, which is pretty crazy, but it's even crazier. The people they asked, the other people, because I saw who they asked, they're like rock stars of Jewish journalists and writers. And I'm like, some of these people are like way older, way much more accomplished than myself in this. I don't look at I find myself I don't enjoy writing. I'm going to be very frank. I enjoy speaking, believe it or not. I don't enjoy writing. I honestly don't enjoy it. I enjoy doing something in this world. But here's my point. I started talking about this is so crazy. They asked me to be. So I said to the lady, listen, I said actually what I just said now. I said, I'm not a natural writer. I have a decent writer background. I'm not a natural writer. I don't enjoy writing. It takes me a really long time. But I think that if you want to empower people to realize that everyone can make a difference, and I truly believe this, and part of it is experiencing it. Like I just told my wife, because I put in a op-ed this week for a major paper about seeing spirituality during COVID. So the first paper did not take it. It's not something. It's a couple more, but if you don't, I think, well, how am I write this op-ed for a major paper, or to write about religion or in any way? I came to this belief a long time ago that anyone can write, and anyone, if you believe passionately in something and you believe that everything is possible, it's all possible. You should not look at yourself. Obviously, you person needs a certain amount of seichel to write things, but so I told my wife, I said, the Poland article I wrote 2 years ago. I had other articles which have turned out to be impactful. I got one thing the BBC wanted to interview about, and a lot of things come from different things. It's just how life goes. One thing leads to another. But I said, look, this. I'll give you an example. The Washington Times article I wrote on Poland 2 years ago, which I got death threats from. Well, it was a 20-something paper that I wrote it for. Like 20. I put it in. I sent it. I got no's and maybes and the no's. And the Washington Times, it turned out, I didn't even cop it when I went. It is a newspaper that's read by Congress, and it has about 100-something thousand people subscription. But of those people, it is from a lot of the Washington D.C. elite, especially the Republican Washington D.C. elite. I mean, it's read. I did not realize it when I went in there. It's read by the who's who of Washington D.C., especially in the Republican side, but everyone, because it's the second largest paper in Washington D.C. It's a political newspaper. Well, because it ended up in that newspaper, it actually got a response by the ambassador of Poland. Okay, could you mention me, Menachem, writing in San Jose, California, and the ambassador of Poland actually responds to my letter, which I got rejected by my article by 20 newspapers, or not taken. Not taken. The Foreign Ministry of Poland discussed my article. So I thought to myself, this is amazing. Not only that was I able for my desk to have an impact, because that Saturday night, actually, my article came on Tuesday. On Friday, the Polish ambassador and the Foreign Ministry discussed my letter. And that Saturday night, they froze that Polish anti-Semitic law. Now, was it only my article? For sure not. The Israeli government was involved. But I do believe that congressional people read it. And I do believe that it forced the ambassador in the Foreign Ministry to say something. It obviously had some power effect. They would never, ever, even if it would be in the San Jose Mercury, which has a larger subscription, they wouldn't have responded. So why am I saying this? Because this lady asked me to speak for this group. I think myself, why don't so many more people, there's so much bad that goes on in this world. There's so much anti-religious junk in the news. there's so much sheker. Why don't a lot of people do things? Because we feel we can't. It's like we really, in life, and if I had to give one speech to this lady, that's what I'm going to speak about. If you have any talents whatsoever, never think you can't affect the world. Never look at yourself and say, I can't do something. Never feel hopeless in your situation. First of all, it's unfortunate, a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe that, you will be hopeless and you won't do anything if you believe that. And I think that the reason why, at some level, that I felt motivated to do this, because I've over the years came to a very firm belief that if you feel passionately about anything in this world and you're willing to not give up, you will be successful. It doesn't mean you'll be 100% successful. It may not be always the way you envision, but you will make an impact, 100%. A Yid, a Jew especially, who feels passionately about something, who deeply wants to make an impact, will make an impact. And it's not a personal view, it's a Torah view. The second is purely Bitachon, and that is when you look at a Sarah Schneer in this world. I mean, here's a lady, talk about me. Sarah Schneer was a lady living in Krakow. She was, I think she's divorced at the time, or not married. She was a nobody, and she started the whole women's education. I mean, how does a woman do that? How does he change the world? I'm just reading a book on Noah Weinberg now. A man who at the time, Baal Tshuva in the early 1960s, was unheard of, who could believe that you could affect the world. So it goes back to that lesson I said a while back, about the Ramchal and Kivoy and hope, and that Rabbi Aaron Kotler, his greatest trait was not that he was a great Talmud Chacham, he was a genius of geniuses, so he had Bitachon. And what Bitachon is that under all circumstances, under the most trying situations, when you believe in Hashem, all is possible. And not only that, says the Rabbinu Yonah, but it should know, again, Yedim Levavo does not mean it's cerebrally. Bitachon, it's not just like a knowledge point. It has to be in the gut. It has to be real. And by the way, every degree of bitachon, of faith, makes an impact. Every little drop of bitachon is gold. But the more that it's been inculcated into a person, the calmer they'll be, and the more empowered they'll be. And so you have to know in your heart that everything, we just finished Purim. The whole Purim story was everything looks black. It's all dark. It doesn't look like there's any hope for the Jewish people. You have Haman sitting there at the viceroy, the number 2 in Persia. There's a death sentence of the Jews. Achashverosh himself, when the Megillah story opens, is a Rasha whose party was to cause the Jews to sin, who was celebrating that the Jews will never go back to Jerusalem. And Haman's from Amalek. It just looks terrible. And no, but a Jew says that no, everything, literally everything is in the hands of Hashem. Because Baruch Hu wants to change the world in a second, in a millisecond. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could change all of the realities around. The Hachlaf HaMazel is a huge topic in Hashgacha, which means that by a Jew, by the nation of the Jewish people, they're in Mazel Yisrael, which means, Mazel, just very briefly, Mazel means we all have a certain spiritual connection to the upper worlds. And we wish someone a Mazel Tov. Your Mazel should be good. Mazel means to be dripped, that the spiritual connection for the upper world. But we also have core tchunas. Everybody, as individuals, have core. Like, for example, if you're born in the mazel of Madim, of like Mars, you can be, like, famously, you can be a murderer if you use it for the bad. You could be a shaykhet, can be a butcher, and like blood, you can be a moil, right? You say today you'd be a surgeon, whatever. Right? How you'll use your mazel will be up to you. Well, on a nationwide, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Jewish people, we are a people who we break all the rules. There's but the normal rules of history of events, of impact in the world. Because there's no mazel by Yisrael. With something looks like it's all over for the Jews, and in a minute it changes. And the Torah will look instead in a minute, because there's a mazel Yisrael. But even for us as individuals, it's in theory possible to change the mazel, but for sure we can change within the mazel itself what will be with us. The English matzor, it stops Hashem. Lahoshia b'ravamat, no matter how bad, no matter how dreadful, or how little hope it seems to be. The gam kitzara kareva, and the truth is even, and this is very true, very often when the tzara, when you're literally at the breaking point, and when you realize it's just not up to you, you're at the point where you want to give in the towel. You just want to just say, I can't do this. The Yeshuasa Lavo Karev, I just mentioned Noah Feinberg. The man spent years facing rejection after rejection. What made him go on? Because he believed he had to save Jewish children. He believed he had in the value of what he was doing. And at the point where most people, that's where he was successful. Why? How did he do it? Because at the point of where you feel that I can't be successful, it's up to me. It's totally not up to me. I mentioned watching motivational things. That's a part of it. And the truth is, I do believe you need to have belief in yourself. It's not a shiur, and it's not. And I've talked about it multiple times over the years. It's not enough to believe in Hashem per se. You need to believe in yourself. Now, you could believe in yourself and be an egotist, and that you'll have no Bitachon Hashem. It's up to you. Or you can believe that Hashem puts everyone, like, again, I only mentioned about writing because I got this crazy, right, mamish crazy. The fact that they asked me is like ridiculously dumb, because other people are really qualified. And if I ever wrote anything that had any, in the poster or whatever, it's just because I believed that passionate badly. It's not that I'm, if you believe in yourself and you're passionate about something, then when you have bitachon in Hashem, not yourself, because when you have bitachon Hashem, anything is possible. It's like pasha, anything is possible at that point. Whether it's to start an organization, whether it's to write an article, whether it's to help someone, whether it's to change who you are and to change the world. I mean, literally, mamish, anything is possible. But when you're bitzara means that you don't. It's not where you really can't see you. It means you've tried your utmost and you just have had no success, or you are really challenged, or you just have no money left in the bank, or you're a death's row. At that point, where you're trying and you've done everything you can and you put everything in bitachon, the Yeshuasa level is kreva. It's at that point where a person can see a greater salvation, a greater redemption. Because everything is possible. Everything is possible. V'nemar su'ush l'shamayim einechem v'hebita al haaretz bitachon salom v'yeshua salom tiyah. Look up. I mean, look up to the heavens. Look at the world. Look at, as Yeshaya said, look at the world and see that who created everything in the world. Be inspired that there's a Rabbeinu Shalom, there's a creator of the world, there's a master, Rabbeinu Shalom. There is a master of the world. And know that there is a redemption in him. Because again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a meitiv. He wants to give us more than any father would want to give us. He knows that we need more. And he controls the whole world. V'yiftach b'Hashem yisparach, and at that point you can have. There's no promise over here. Who says that your article will be accepted? That you're going to make a Beis Yaakov, that you're going to make an Isha Torah, that you're going to help this Jew, that your business is going to be successful? Who said you're going to build this business? Who said in the world that you're going to get a shul building, or you're going to build a preschool, or you're going to have? I'm telling you right now, with the Erev, honestly, I don't know if I said this in the Bitachon, but I said this in my drasha. There was a point on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur where I thought it was absolutely over. I just put my head on the shtender on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I said, Hashem, it's all up to you. I literally, I totally felt it was like the brick wall. It was like mission impossible. Mamish mission impossible. And so you have to believe there's no problem. Who's going to get an Erev? Who said your business is going to be successful? People want to have things in life. You're going to get it. Who says? There are people who want to make aliyah. Who says that's going to happen? You want to do something in this world. There's no guarantee. No, here there is. It means the more bitachon you have, you can have the hope. Now there are sometimes, for whatever supernatural reasons, that it's just not good for you. I mean, there are people who, for whatever reason, it's Gezeres Hashem. I don't believe that any of us will have bitachon with Chazon Ish, and for whatever reason, Hashem didn't want the Chazon Ish to have children. Didn't want it. And I'm sure the Chazon Ish, the first mitzvah of the Torah is to have children. I'm sure the Chazon Ish prayed for children, and I'm sure he bitachon the of children. And for whatever reason, Hashem didn't want it. But that was because it's a Gezerah. But the derech klal, the Yeshua will come through the bitachon. So and therefore that kihurav lahoshia mikol tzara, because Hashem is rav lahoshia mikol tzara. Yeshua also clarifying this line. It's used often today. I'm not sure. I was wondering. I think I wrote down once maybe a medrash that says it's lashon, but I know it from here. The Yeshua also clarified that Hashem's salvation comes in a blink of an eye. Like a blink of an eye. In 1 second, the whole turnabout could come. The Yeshua also clarified right now, it looks like nothing's going to happen. It's a mission impossible. And tomorrow, it's Yeshua also clarified, and therefore, because even in the most dire, most dreadful, most scary, the most dark times, when things look like there's a brick wall in front of you, it seems like to be mission impossible, or you have a dream, you have a drive, and you just don't know how you can do it, or when you're a parent and you have children, there's no expiration date for a parent being nervous about children's doing, or for children's needs, or grandchildren. That Yeshua can happen. Keharav ayin. You have to know that in 1 second things could change, and therefore the more we're botach, first of all, it empowers our prayer, empowers us to do things in this world, not to give up in this world, to take on challenges which seem to be overwhelming, to have the peace of mind to go on. Al can yikave, like we discussed by the Ramchal, yikave liyeshuasa, have kivoy, have hope for that salvation. Gamim acherev munach al tzavar shad, like the Talmud says that we learn from King David, who learned this from Moshe Rabbeinu, and whose descendant Chizkiah HaMelech said this to Yeshaya. Gam, even if there's a sword on your neck, there's a sword on your neck. You're Moshe Rabbeinu. This is what happened to Moshe. And there's a moment where you're going to die. It looks like it's all over. End of the game. It's a pasuk in Eov. Even when I'm being killed, lo yachal. I'm going to still have faith in Hashem. I think I said this story. I don't think I said it over this. David Ashir, I've seen it in a couple of places. Brings the following amazing story. I think it'll be Goldwasser, maybe been the first one to say this, of somebody who was in the concentration camps. I think it was in Birkenau, and whenever he got there, and every day he would say Yeshua Hashem Karafan, that the Yeshua of Hashem Karafan. Hashem wants to get us out of this death camp. Death camp. You know what a death camp is? A death camp. You read the description. Someone said to me today, they're watching Holocaust movies. They recommend me to watch Holocaust movies. I'm like, are you joking? Do you think I need to watch a Holocaust movie? It's in my blood. I was saying, it's in my blood, right? I grew up with my mother's milk on the Holocaust. I am a product, 100% made by the Holocaust. My parents were my mother is a product of a second marriage. Both first spouses were killed. I need to see a movie. I had nightmares as a 4-year-old kid because I was told stories of the Holocaust. So, but you think about a death camp, you read these things. People went to a death camp, they thought it was like a nightmare. Like, you can't even imagine. It's like if you go to Disney World, looking to make-believe land, and a death camp was everything you would imagine about hell, about Gehenna, about evilness, about wickedness. Like it's almost, in fact, is stranger than fiction. You can, even in a book, to make up a thing of the cruelty, of the brutality that went on a death camp. And here this guy's walking around. You should also some care of. So the first day, a person can be positive. I remember someone once was in a someone I know went to a pretty negative college surroundings, which is always a bad idea to send an 18, 19-year-old kid to. So he told me that someone said, "Oh, he's very positive now. Let's see how in 6 months." The first day you come somewhere, you think you're all religious, you're all good. You see you in 6 months. So different discussion. But in the camp, death camp's okay. First they learn say Shiur. You stay in the death camp a few weeks and you see how jolly you are. And this guy, we kept saying, Shiur so terrifying. And he had this, essential communist roommate in his bunk who kept telling me you're crazy. But this communist, old style communist guy in the, Jews were before the Holocaust in Europe were divided. There was secular Zionists, there was communists, there was the Bund, there was religious Zionists, there was majority were actually religious in certain parts of Poland and Russia, Poland and Hungary. So yeah, this guy is kind of crazy, and he's just Karen. And there was a day where they got thrown into this line where they decided they're going to kill that people, like they were worn out. And this guy says to me, "You still think Yeshua is Karafine?" They knew the gas chambers were. They were working in the camp for months. Still think Yeshua from Karafine. And they're getting closer. They're going into the dark. Yeshua to Karafine. And now they're in the room. They're in the room and saying, "Do you still believe Yeshua to Karafine?" Absolutely, Yeshua. So Hashem wants to save us right now. They closed the doors in the gas chamber. We told this guy, then Yeshua so Karafine. And the guy said to him, "You're crazy." And he says, "No, Yeshua Hashem Kefar. Hashem wants to take us out right now. Take me out right now." And at that moment, the door opened. A Nazi looks around. I said, "I need one more worker." He pulls this guy out of the gas chamber and says, "Come work with me." And slammed the door closed. And as the door is being slammed closed, the communist screams to this Jew, "Please say Kaddish for me." Now this story, how did this story got this Jew saying Shuasam Karavayan? Because he lived in England, and there's a day where this elderly Jew, a few years ago, was saying Kaddish, and he was crying as he was saying Kaddish. Many decades after the Holocaust, and somebody went over to him and asked him, "Why are you crying?" And it was the end of this person's life, and he told him the story. And he said, "Today is the day that I was pulled out of that gas chamber. And I was saying Kaddish for that communist." But what saved this person? How is it saved? Because the person literally believed Yeshua Hashem Karafayim. That when a person, it's on a rational level. When you believe in it all is possible, it empowers you. And certainly it creates your mazel to be strengthened. It creates a reality where HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you bracha. When you put your faith in Hashem, and the person needs to know that that the Yeshua of Hashem is keharif ayin mamish. In 1 second, what seems to be the worst death sentence. You're in the gas chamber. Who gets out of there? And there's in 1 second, if Hashem wants to get out of there. And Moshe Rabbenu, we learn from him, he swore, "Hengik Delani, Lu Yachal," he's on his deathbed, Lu Yachal. I just saw Rabbi David Ashak just to give him, I don't remember when I signed up for his emails, because years ago I recommended his book to some people actually on this Zoom conference. So I signed up then for his emails. I saw today he had, because now because of the situation, I every few days I look at it. I don't look at it every day. Not that I think it's not a good investment of time. I just don't have the time to do it. So I saw today a story about a person who told him he had hours to live from his COVID-19. And he sent a message to his Rabbi, to Menachem David, Shiur Pachad Yitzchak. and he said he's going to say the whole Tehillim for him, and his shul prayed for him. And literally this person was told he has hours to live. He's an elderly person as well. And within 12 hours, he was out of the hospital. They said they realized they're giving too much oxygen within 12 hours. The man's out of the hospital. He was like a goises, like dead. They're gonna take off the ventilator off him. And within 12 hours, not only is he a little bit the eternal, he was walking out of the hospital. He brought the story that's today, and it happened the past 2 weeks. Right? That is the power of belief in Hashem, that all is possible. It comes. It's empowering, but it's also it's transformative, not only spiritually for you, but for the world, the metzius of the world. It goes by a different reality in the world. How do you have this? It's when you have bitachon. When you're talking, that you believe with all of your heart and all of your soul that Hashem runs the world, and Hashem is abal chesed. Hashem wants to do chesed, and He loves you and I more than anyone we could ever imagine, and knows what's best for and all is possible. And there's nothing that God can't change in the world. So this tikva, this hope that even right now, where there's no promise, because there is no promise. I mentioned the Chazon Ish. It could be there's some reason a person has bitachon and they die. It could be there's a reason why that happens. We don't know always, but it could be. As opposed to, if you keep Shabbos, you're 100% guaranteed. 100% guaranteed you will not lose out. But as far as things there's no promise, it's not 100% because we don't know the Hashem's calculations. But what is 100% is that when you have bitachon about Hashem, first of all, that itself is a merit for eternity. That itself affects the world spiritually 100%. But even for the person themselves, the situation themselves, it is overwhelmingly possible to switch it because of that, because of the schus of bitachon. And that tikva comes, atzula, and emanates from bitachon. Shiskarna v'namar bitchol b'chol eis. You should have bitachon Hashem, have trust in Hashem at all times and at all places. Pirish b'chol eis, right? At all times. Gam be'eis tzara krova, even when it looks like you're not going to be able to do anything. You don't know how to get out of it. You just do not see a natural path to get out of it. These are all about, a lot of these are psukim. And tell me, this is actually a pasuk in Yeshaya. Bitcho b'Hashem, have faith in Hashem. Adi akibaka Hashem tzur olamim, because Hashem is the eternal rock of both worlds. That who gives, if you have bitachon, you're rewarded for eternity, and then even in this world. Because God is the creator of Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. Everything, everyone, every situation, every microbe, every dollar in the world is up to Hashem. Have faith in Hashem, because everything, all is possible. All is possible. There's nothing that doesn't. There's nothing. There's zero that you could look at as locked. It cannot be changed. There's zero that you have to say that I can't fix it. And I sometimes you speak to people today, they look at the world around them. I mentioned in the beginning, writing an article is a drop in the sea, but there's so much things that you and I can do. Forgetting being saved. I know the impetus for all of us to learn this really is that we're living in as I said in the beginning, the Chinese curse, living in interesting times and challenging times and dangerous times and scary times. But bitachon is way beyond that. Bitachon is you and I, we can change ourselves because of bitachon. We can change the world because of bitachon. Right? If we believe, I can't remember Rabbi Kala, you know, used to start a Lakewood yeshiva in 1941. You know what's going on in 1941? World War II is going on. The Holocaust is going on. The man didn't speak a word of English. He gets off a boat in San Francisco, by the way. In San Francisco. He gets to San Francisco. He knows nobody. And he gives a speech there about America's going to be a place of Torah. You know what America was in 1941? It was the Treifa Medina. It was a place where Judaism was buried and lost. and watered down and perverted. That's what happened in America. To build a yeshiva, a Kehillas, with no money, with no English, with no connections. I mean, how do you do that in a culture of America in the 1940s, which was actually, anti-Semitism in the 1940s, early 1940s was way higher than it was today. People were blaming World War II on the Jews, literally on the Jews. Right? It was a Jewish war. Right? Why are we going to Europe? All these types of things. And here's this European rabbi who's no youngster coming and saying we need Kehillas in America. Like, there's barely anyone in day schools at the time. How does a person think like that? Like, where does that come from? We could say today, but like then, it's all bitachon. It's pashut all bitachon. You believe that the world is not locked in. That you could change the world. And by the way, it's in the Jewish DNA. It's in the reason why Jews, again, Rachmanis, many Jews, they have this tikva. I'm not talking about the Pledge of Allegiance in Israel, but this tikva to change the world. They're the social warriors for all kinds of crazy causes. But it comes because it's in the Jewish DNA that you could change the world. It comes from Avram Avinu. Right? Avram Avinu was the biggest iconoclast the world has ever seen. Avram Avinu was the biggest iconoclast. He was a one man. He was Ivri. He stood against the entire world. The entire world had a worldview, an ideology of paganism. And here you have Avram Avinu standing up against the world. Right? Now, when you have bitachon, it's not just that it can change the world, but you tap into Kadosh Baruch Hu, right, and change the world. And that's why here I am, and you are, we're all religious Jews, 3,300 years from Torah, and 3,700 years since Avram Avinu. Like, amazing. It's like pashut, amazing that we can be here today in the most adverse, situations physically and spiritually over the millennium. But there are always Jews who believe in tomorrow. There are always Jews who believe that even though today it looks like we're leaving Spain, it's 1492 and we have nowhere to go. These people had nowhere to go. It looks terrible. There is a tomorrow. What's amazing to me, the Holocaust, is like my wife's grandmother said she was on the death marches. Like they sang Ani Mamin on the death marches. They're sitting there in death marches. And she's singing, we believe in Mashiach. We're singing to Mashiach. Right? They're on the death marches itself. And my grandparents, after the Holocaust, were in DP camps for 3 to 4 years. It was after the Holocaust. They had nowhere to go. It's the ability of Klal Yisrael, of the Yid, to believe that all Hashem runs the world. There's not locked. I can rebuild myself. I can rebuild the world, and it's empowering. And sometimes things are very short. If you shush care if I am mamish, like in 1 second, everything changes. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, but it's always with the knowledge that Yeshua could come in 1 moment. At 1 moment. By the way, the belief of Mashiach, we're not talking about Mashiach tonight, is exactly that. That Yeshua so keharif ayim. Because Hashem runs the world. Have the faith because Hashem could do everything. You have to know in life in front of who are you serving. And we see Pirkei Avos, second week of Avos. I hope everyone's learning Pirkei Avos. Last week was the first week, it's the second week, because this is this week's Pirkei Avos. Know in front of who you serve. Hashem will always reward you. You will always be rewarded, as I mentioned 2 nights ago, in the eternal world. When you have bitachon, that reward is kiflei kaflayim. It's so much. It's geometrically higher. Very often you'll see it in this world, and sometimes you won't. Look, sometimes for whatever reason there's a gezerah. Hashem doesn't want this to happen. It could have been that Rabbi Aaron Kotler came to America, and it didn't happen. It very well could have been that. Why did it happen? Because he had the bitachon. Why did it happen? Because he believes in Hashem. But there also could have been, for whatever reason, Hashem did not want that to happen. But you know what? In Shammai, Rabbi would have built Lakewood, and he would have been rewarded for a large extent for that bitachon. which means even if sometimes there's reasons things don't happen in life. There's not just it's not just about us. It's about a whole messianic process. But the Or is always rewarded for bitachon. All this comes with reward. Person has bitachon. It's a different reality, because when you have bitachon, you realize whether it's COVID-19 can leave. COVID-19 is easy, by the way. It's because it's completely Menachem. It's a Magefa. It's, in 1 second, there could be something created by Hashem. It's not even people over here. It's purely from Hashem in 1 second. But way beyond that, there's nothing that's locked in life. Now, it doesn't mean you can break the laws of nature. If you jump off an Empire State Building and say, bitachon, you're going to die. That's a pretty stupid thing to do. Don't do that, right? But it does mean that anything in the laws of nature, and certainly when you're impassioned about something, and certainly when you believe in something, and certainly when the more bitachon you put in it, there's a line in Navi, actually, Chavetz Chaim he loved this line. Is by David HaMelech, who is, again, not only the author of Tehillim, who's our Rabbi. David HaMelech is the Rabbi to a large extent in Bitachon. The reason David was able to fight lions and fight Goliaths was David goes to fight Goliath, B'Shem Hashem. How in the world do you know what Goliath was? And here David's coming as a redheaded little guy, taking a stone and killing Goliath. You know how because he had the greatest Bitachon. David is a Rabbi in Bitachon. So there's one point. It's in Shmuel where he was not yet the king. He had been chased because of Shaul, and he's in the land of the Plishtim, and he actually was acting like an ally of the Plishtim. We're not going to go through Navi right now, but in there, he take his soldiers ahead, and what happened is the Amalekim came from behind and took all the women and children, and his few hundred soldiers that were with him wanted to kill David. They were blaming him for this. And the pasuk says, I think it's Vayigba. If I find it real quick, I'll get it. If not, I'll just tell it to you outside. It's worth it to hear it. As I said, every little bit of bitachon is so valuable. Oh, here we go. Yes. In your honor, I got it. It's Perek, Shmuel Aleph, Perek Lamed, Pasuk Vav. V'teitzlo David ma'od. And David was very distressed. Ki amru ha'am, these soldiers are with him. They said l'saklo, they wanted to stone him. Ki mar nefesh kol ha'am, they are blaming him. By the way, this is the peril of being a leader. You can get stoned. Like literally, David is like they're tzaddik, they're leader. In 1 second, they want to kill him. Like literally, want to kill him physically. That's not a joke. They want to kill him. And Himar Nefesh called her so angry that their women, their wives, and their children were kidnapped by the Amalekim that they're going to kill him. Oh, by myself. What is it? Now listen to the last 4 words. The Chavetz Chaim. He said these 4 words he loved. Actually, his son said that he himself David was strengthened himself from Hashem, his God. He strengthened his. Right, he quotes at the bottom. This is like the art school Tanakh, which I think quotes the Radak. David did not despair, but trusted that God would enable him to recover the captives. Also, he said, David means he was strengthened himself, which means even at that moment when people are screaming, hundreds of people want to kill you, right? And they have actually abandoned you. Like you're the leader, they're abandoned you. That bitachon, it was what saved him at that moment, and it was that bitachon that empowered him always. So I want you to know, like I mentioned in the beginning, that there is, even though we want this to leave as soon as possible, it's really a gift in this. The more bitachon that we come out of this, not only will we survive or thrive in COVID, we will realize that in life, when we have bitachon, we will transform ourselves and we can transform the world. Okay, we'll hold to everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we got next Monday night. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi.
Sure. Have a good night. And tell us regular time tomorrow. Regular time.